Hey, everybody. My name's Fabian, and I'm here with the first Homies Online program for you guys here on YouTube. And I'm super excited to bring this to you. But I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not super big on long-winded introductions. So without further ado, I want to just kind of get into what we're talking today. I'm this guy just up here in the corner here. If you ever want to look at my face, otherwise, I encourage you to take a look at the PowerPoint that's in front of you. And today, what I wanted to talk with you about is the 2020 American elections. Now, I'm in Canada, and chances are that a lot of the people who watch this video are also going to be in Canada. So, if you are in Canada, before we even get started at all, one of the first things I'm going to mention here is that Canadians cannot vote in this election that's coming up. This video is going to be about something that's going on in America. And America is the country that is to the south of us, the big one that you're probably hearing a lot about on the news. And I created this presentation because I feel like a lot of the news out there has been very alarming, very upsetting, and extreme sounding. And I know that it can be really hard to be trying to figure out what's going on in the news without feeling overwhelmed, without feeling attacked. And I'd love it if you just gave me 10 minutes of your time, really just take a second to listen, hear what I have to say. And I am going to try to explain to you exactly what's going on with these elections and how we can kind of expect them to go. So, the news has been hectic. There's no way around that, right? Anytime that you turn on the news channels, chances are that you're hearing all about Trump and Biden. The news is talking all about the USA. Even if you're here in Canada, or even if you're watching this from Europe, chances are that the news has been talking a lot about America for reasons that aren't completely clear. I want to tell you that's because the United States is having an election. These news stories, sometimes they're going to be extreme, but I want you to forget all about that. Elections can be pretty hard to understand, but today I wanted to just sit down with you and really have a conversation about what an election actually is. Because the reality of democracy is actually pretty interesting. It's some really cool stuff going on in the frameworks of the government. And it can be really overwhelming if you try to take it all in at once, especially when the people that are talking to you are these kind of angry, extreme people all the time, right? You got the news saying the world's going to end. You've got people freaking out if Trump wins this, if Biden wins that. So instead, we're going to go ahead and turn off all that noise and get into the reality of things. So before we begin, I want to tell you that this slideshow is not about opinions. I am not going to tell you which of these candidates I would vote for if I was an American. I am a Canadian. I can't vote for either of them anyway. And even if I could, wouldn't mention it right now. I am just interested in talking with you about the reality of what an election is, right? Like what actually is going to physically happen and why do people care about it so much? So that brings us to our big question, right? Just like I've been saying this whole time, what is an election? An election is pretty straightforward. An election is when the people in a country choose new leaders. A country which has elections is called a democracy. For any of my friends watching from Canada, the country that we live in is a democracy. You might remember last year in 2019, we actually had elections of our own. And in those elections, a fellow named Justin Trudeau won. And when his party, the Liberal Party, won the election, he became the prime minister, the leader of our country. So, just like in 2019, the Canadians elected Justin Trudeau, on November 3rd, the American people are going to choose who they want to be their president. And so, how do people pick? And the answer to that is by voting. So, that brings us to another question. What is voting? And to better understand what voting is, I want you to imagine a group of friends. And this group of friends is trying to choose what they want to eat for dinner. Now, some of the friends are saying that they want pizza. The other friends are saying that they want tacos. So you can't get pizza and tacos from the same place. So how are they going to pick? They're going to pick by voting. just in the same way that the American people are about to pick their leader by voting. And let's kind of break down step by step, what does that mean? Because no matter what they choose, some of the friends are going to be happy and some of them are going to be upset. Some of them want tacos, some of them want pizza, and not everybody can get what they want. But if they all vote, then they can all pick the option that's going to make the most people happy, because everyone will have voiced their opinion. Everyone's going to say, this is what I want. And when one choice comes out with more people agreeing, that choice is going to make the most people happy. And making the most people happy is the fairest thing that we can do. If we're going to consider that everybody's opinion, everybody's thoughts are equal, right? We don't put any one person above some other person, then the only way that we're going to be able to do that is with voting. So let's take a look at how this goes. We'll ask our friends, what do you want for dinner? Let's see what they say. Person 1 says tacos. Person 2 also says tacos. Person 3 says pizza. Person 4 says pizza. Person 5 says tacos. Person 6 says pizza. Now at home, take a second. Imagine what the next person's going to say. What do you think? Pizza. The last person is going to vote for pizza. And so let's break down how this goes, right? We've got all of our friends. They've all told us what we want for dinner. So let's see how it went. Our tacos got 1, 2, 3 votes. 3 of our friends wanted the tacos. The pizza got 1, 2, 3, 4 votes. Our pizza got 4 votes when the tacos got 3 votes. So you'll see the way that these people kind of line up. Anytime that there's a vote for both the tacos and the pizza, we can cancel out those 2 votes. Because if those people's opinions are equal, if they have the same power, then one person saying tacos kind of cancels out one person saying pizza. So we'll cancel out the first vote, the second vote, and the third vote because both of them got 3 votes. But as you can see on the screen here, the pizza has 1 vote left over because pizza got 4 votes. And so pizza wins. More friends voted for the pizza, and so now everybody's going to go for pizza because that's what most people wanted. Of course, the taco friends probably wish that they could go for tacos, but if they're all going to stick as a group and they're going to eat dinner together, which is what they want, then they have to simply choose the one that most people want, which in this case was pizza. And that's pretty straightforward, right? You've probably voted for things before. This probably isn't the first time that you've heard of this idea of voting, and you've probably made decisions this way before in the past, right? Maybe if you were choosing a movie, for example, you guys probably said which ones you wanted, and whichever one more people wanted might have been the movie that you went to watch that day. So let's look at another example that gets a little bit more complicated because I think you guys are ready for it. Let's take a family. And here we have a family with super creative names. We've got mom, we've got dad, we've got daughter, but we could call her Dottie. We've got son, and we've got baby. So all of these guys, this family, rather than choosing between pizza and tacos, these guys are going to try something else. These guys are going to choose what color to paint a fence. Now think about this for a second here, because with our pizza versus tacos, we had only 2 options, the pizza or the tacos. But when we look at a fence can be painted any color on the rainbow. It can be blue, red, green, orange, you name it. Whatever color they want to paint the fence, they're going to have to vote on a particular color. So although there's many choices, this vote is still going to work the same. Anyone can vote one time, and whichever color has the most votes at the end is going to be the color that wins. So mom says that she wants white. Dad says he wants white. Daughter, she says she wants pink. Son asks for blue, and baby is going to ask for green. So when we take a look at this election here, the way that it happened, white is the winner because mom and dad both voted for white, which gives white 2 votes, and Dottie, son, and baby each voted for 1 color each. And so pink got 1, blue got 1, and green got 1. As such, they're going to paint that fence white because white got the most votes. Now, something strange here happened, and I want you to think very carefully because this is not the most intuitive thing. And if you're not looking out for this, you might not have even seen it. Let's think carefully for a second. Because when it was either pizza or tacos, there was only two choices. And whichever choice won out was going to be the choice that made the most people happy. It was just the way that the math worked. Whichever one that they picked had more people, and more people being happy is the fairest thing to do. But with the fence, there's many colors. And the winning color is the one that most people wanted that particular color. Now, this is different because that doesn't mean that the most people are going to be happy. Let's take a closer look at what happened here. Now, there was white, pink, blue, and green as options on the table. Now, mom and dad both voted for white. Dottie voted for pink. Son voted for blue. Baby voted for green. Pretty straightforward. But if we look at people who came out happy and people who came out upset, let's take a look at what happens. Because mom is happy and dad is happy, but Dottie is upset, son is upset, and baby is also upset. So we run into a bit of a problem here, right? That's more people upset than happy, right? When mom and dad vote for white and the kids each vote for their own color, two people are happy, that's mom and dad, and three people are upset, that's Dottie, son, and baby. So in this case, when Dottie, son, and baby voted for exactly what they wanted, they actually lost out on the election because more people agreed on white, even though more people wanted not white than white. So everybody gets a white fence, regardless of how they voted. So let's say that Dottie and son and baby are actually going to be a little bit more clever this time. Before the vote, we're going to go back in time and we'll say before the vote, Dottie, son, and baby have a conversation. Dottie's going to talk to them. She's going to say, guys, we've got a few choices: white, pink, blue, and green. And Dottie and baby agree. They say, okay, yeah, white, pink, blue, and green. Dottie says, guys, I think we should vote for pink. And Son says, well, I think that we should vote for blue. And furthermore, Son's going to say, no matter what, I can tell you, I do not want a pink fence. Pink is not the color that I want. And Dottie's going to respond to that by saying, well, you know what? Blue is not the color that I want. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, you're never going to get me to agree to a blue fence. Now, baby is going to say that baby doesn't want either pink or blue. Neither of those options are going to work for baby. So now they've got to do a little bit more thinking. Son speaks up. He says, you guys, you know what? No matter what we pick, I can tell you that I do not want white. White is not the color that I want. And Dottie agrees. And so does baby. All three of them do not want a white fence. So they can wipe white off the table. They are not going to vote for a white fence no matter what. Now we run into a bit of an oddity. Baby's going to say, I want a green fence. And baby's going to bring up that both baby and son could not agree on pink. And likewise, both baby and daughter could not agree on blue. So pink and blue are off the table. Two of them do not want either of those colors. And after this discussion takes place and they realize that they don't want white and they can't have blue or pink, both Dottie and Son are going to agree that green is good enough. They all like green more than white. And so they're going to say, you know what, fine, let's go with green. And this time, when they are talking to mom and dad, they are all going to vote together as a block. So let's watch what happens. Mom votes as white. Dad votes white. Dottie votes green this time. And so does Son. And baby keeps the vote green. And now watch what happened. Things changed. Now green wins. The results of the election changed completely when the kids worked together and voted as a block. And now everybody's going to get the green fence, which means that our kids are going to be happy and mom and dad are going to be upset. But that's not so bad if you think about it, because if we look at who's happy and who's upset and we pay attention to the colors that we have available to us, we'll see that mom and dad both are not happy because they voted for white and got overruled. But Dottie's son and baby all voted for green. And so now three people are happy and two people are upset. So the results of the election came out better because more people got what they wanted in the end, because they decided to vote together and they worked together. So that's all we're going to talk about for that family for now, because we're going to take a quick step back and we're just going to look at a little recap of everything that we've talked about so far. And so our first vote was between seven friends who had to choose between tacos and pizza. And when it came to the tacos and pizza, they split off and they made their choices. More people voted for pizza. And very simply, because pizza got more votes, they chose pizza. That one was super straightforward. So then we moved on to the family, and the family had to pick a fence color. And they could pick from any color on the rainbow. And mom and dad won because they voted for white together. So instead, when Dottie, son, and baby all vote together, they're able to win and decide on the green fence for the family. And with all that, we're now ready to kind of start talking a bit more about the real American elections and what's actually going to happen in reality, not things that we're imagining. So, just like the friends voted for the pizza and the family voted for the fence, America, the country, or maybe more accurately, all of the people who live in America as registered citizens, are going to be able to vote for the president if they choose to do so. Now, in our first election, it was between the tacos and the pizza. But this election's going to be a little bit different because this election is between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And this is going to be a little bit like our pizza and tacos election. It's not going to be all that different. The people will either choose Donald Trump or Joe Biden, just like the friends chose either tacos or pizza, right? Where we had taco and pizza in these positions before, the people are going to choose one of these men that they would prefer to support. It's straightforward, but it's going to raise even more questions. And the questions that we're going to try to answer today are why Trump and Biden, who are Donald Trump and Joe Biden, how are the Americans going to vote, and when are the Americans going to vote? So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive. So, our first question is going to be number one, why these guys? Who are they? So Donald Trump and Joe Biden, they don't magically appear out of thin air. Then there's lots of reasons why these guys are on the line to become president. These men were chosen by a political party. And I know you might hear the word party and you're getting ready to move, but this is a different kind of party. It is not a dance party. There's not any music in these parties. And to try to explain what one of these parties is, I actually want to go back and look at the previous example. We're going to come back to that family with the fence. You'll remember Dottie, son, and baby all had a good discussion about the colors that were available to them and which ones they might want to choose. Dottie wanted pink, son wanted blue, but in the end, they could all agree on green because that was the one that baby suggested that was the best one for all of them because none of them wanted white. So they all vote for green together because even though green might not be what they have in their hearts, green is something that we can all agree on. And that is exactly what a political party is, guys. When you take away all of the other options and you can find a group of people who wants the same things that you want generally and who you can find to agree with you to some degree on the things that you want for the country or for the fence or for dinner, voting together is always going to make you more strong. And a group of people who votes together is something that we call a party. And if you can find people who agree with you, then you can all vote for the same thing. And when you all vote for the same thing, it will make your votes stronger. And when it comes to elections, this actually happens all the time. This is extremely common. It's actually really kind of the basis of the election system, right? If we take a look at just the way that the group of kids was able to agree on green, even though what some of the kids had in their real heart was pink or blue, They were able to win the election that way. So just like they vote on green over pink or blue, I want to talk about some of the American parties and what they agree on or don't agree on. At least in the most very basic terms. Like I said, we're not going to be talking about opinions, and that means that I'm not going to be touching on policy in this video. We're just going to be discussing the facts of what is what and who is who. So the first party that we're going to talk about is a group called the Republican Party. And the Republican Party is a group of American voters who agree on Donald Trump. And for some of these guys, there might be someone else that they want more, that they actually like more than Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, all of them agree that Donald Trump is better than Joe Biden. This group calls themselves the Republican Party. Their symbol is an elephant, like the one that you see on your screen right now. And the color that their party uses is the color red. So things that are colored red when it comes to politics usually represent this group, the Republican Party. And just like there's the Republican Party, there's another big American party that is running for this election here. And this is going to be a group of people that agree on Joe Biden. Even if there's some other politicians that they might like a little bit more than Joe Biden, not all of those ones can be agreed on. They are the blue, they are the pink. Joe Biden is the green. They all agree that Joe Biden is better than Donald Trump, right? Joe Biden is their green, Donald Trump is their white. This group calls themselves the Democratic Party. Their symbol is a donkey and their color is blue. So this picture that you see right above Joe Biden there, if you see that logo there and something is colored blue, chances are that we're talking about the Democratic Party. And these are the people who agree with Joe Biden. So that's generally speaking why the choices are Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It does go a little bit more in depth than that, but for our purposes, it's enough for us to just understand that the Republicans prefer Donald Trump, the Democrats prefer Joe Biden, and that was something that they could agree on for the presidential election. Now, of course, the Americans can vote for somebody else. It's just not that good of an idea. When an American gets to the polls and is able to cast their ballot, which we'll talk about what those are in a little bit, they can actually vote for anybody they want. You could vote for me if you want to. I mean, I am not eligible to be president, but you can write that onto your ballot if you really feel like it. So you might look here, we've got the Republicans and the Democrats, and we'll say that there's some mystery party who we are going to symbolized with a question mark here because we don't really know who they are. And if you go ahead and vote for that mystery party, a third party, what's going to happen is that just like the kids who wanted blue or pink, the parents are going to vote for white, or the other Americans are going to vote for one of these two major parties, and your vote is going to get washed away. And so people are going to stick with just the two parties, not necessarily because that's the best, but because that's what's going to help them win. Just like Dottie and Son voting for pink and blue, voting for somebody who's not a Republican or a Democrat is not going to win most likely. Now, some people who aren't part of these parties do win, but almost every single winner from this election is going to be one of these two. And I promise you that the president will be either a Democrat or a Republican. So when we look at this election and we think of it as Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, I want to challenge that. I want to tell you that's not actually the best way to look at things. We should really be looking at this instead as the Republicans versus the Democrats, the red side versus the blue side, or the parents versus the kids. But the Republicans and the Democrats, or the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, they're going to be the two biggest factors in this election. And you might know that they're going for the president, but there's actually two other very important parts of the government that they're going to talk about and try to get elected. And one of them is the House of Representatives. And the other one is something that we call the Senate. So what are these things? That's a good question. We'll go into this as well as we can. So, first, I'm going to start with kind of a real description of what it is. And so, this next part's going to be a bit information heavy, but I want you to just stick with me because we're going to come back to visuals in just a second. But I've got some framework that I need to lay down for you. So we've got our House of Representatives, and you might see the image on the screen has a lot of little dots. This represents the House of Representatives, because it has many, many people in it, and most of them are going to be either Democrats or Republicans. The House of Representatives, most simply understood, are the people who make laws. Now, the House of Representatives does some other things other than making laws, but really, the legislature, which is kind of the big word for making laws, is one of their main jobs and is really kind of the important thing that most people are looking at when they are trying to vote. So, the House of Representatives is going to bring up something called bills. Before they are a law, they are a bill, and that's what that image there means. So there's a lot of them. There's about 435 representatives all throughout the country, and these guys are everywhere. They're in Hawaii, Nebraska, Florida, California, Michigan, any state that you can imagine has several representatives. And in fact, there's 435 representatives all across the country. So these people get voted all across the country, but all of them are going to go together into the city of Washington, D.C., which is a city, the District of Columbia, on the eastern coast of the United States. And just like our stick people all went over there, they're going to go there and they're going to draft the laws together. They're going to vote on what should and should not be a law. And whatever they can agree on and push through the House is a bill that is going to move forward. And we'll see what happens to that bill. Because the next thing that the Americans are going to vote for is something called the Senate. And the Senate is probably going to be the most complicated thing for me to describe here. It is not super easy to put the Senate into really simple terms, but I'm going to do my best for you. And that Senate is a lot like the House of Representatives, but more experienced. They've got more time in politics. They're usually older, they're usually more respected. And you might have heard some of their names, but probably not most of them. You might have heard of this guy, Barack Obama, the former president of the United States. He used to be a senator before he was the president. So these senator guys, they're serious. They are some real experienced politicians. Some guys might have some opinions on the Senate, but generally speaking, these are guys who know what they're doing. There's fewer senators than representatives. There's only 100. So you might remember the House of Representatives had 435. The Senate has only 100. That's two from each of the states. Just like the representatives, they're going to travel from all over America to the city of Washington, D.C. And one way that you can think of the Senate is like a teacher or a tutor who looks over your homework before you hand it in to a teacher. The Senate's going to look at the laws or the bills that are made by the House of Representatives and decide whether or not they're any good. And furthermore, they're also just going to help the president with any important choices that they need to make. And finally, there's the big one, the head honcho, El Presidente, the president himself, which is, as you might know, is the leader of the country. They're the most famous person in the government. And if there's one person in the government whose name you know, chances are it's probably the president. They're very powerful and they get to make all kinds of choices about the country. And when the country makes a new law, passes something through legislature, the president must agree. And this is one of the biggest parts of being the president. And it's one of the major things that is really going to compel people, that's going to make people want to vote one way or the other. If a president doesn't agree with a law, they have the power to veto it. And we'll come back to what a veto is shortly. The current president is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the leader of the United States of America. And the leader of the United States is a lot like our prime minister. Trump is the president. Here in Canada, we have a prime minister, Mr. Justin Trudeau. And just like we voted in Justin Trudeau in 2019, the Americans are going to vote for who they want to lead themselves this year. So let's slow down because I've been talking about a whole bunch of hooey. It's a lot of information to take in, and I want us to step back a bit to help us understand. So we're going to go visit our family that was voting on the fence to help us understand. Now, when we last left off, Dottie, son, and baby, they had a clever plan together. Dottie, son, and baby all voted together the color green in hopes that they could outmatch mom and dad. And they did. They were successful in it, right? They managed to get 3 green votes compared to mom and dad's 2 white votes. And so they won the election. But chances are you know that things don't work that way. In your household, when you were growing up as a kid, or maybe if you are still a kid now, you don't usually get to overrule mom and dad like that. So let's take a look at what kind of happens next, right? We're going to look at this a little bit more realistically. We're going to take a look at what's going on. So we've got the 3 votes from our kids. That makes our kids happy. But at the end of the day, mom and dad, they're the ones who hold the real power. They're the kings of the castle. The kids are just the dirty rascals. So, first thing that's going to happen, our kids are going to propose green, and our padre, Mr. Father over there, is going to decide what he thinks of these kids' vote. And you might be surprised to hear that dad thinks that this is hilarious. Dad loves it. He sees the kids' initiative. He's like, wow, guys, you actually really just outsmarted me. I think that's hilarious. And dad is going to go ahead and give him the thumbs up. He's going to vote to go ahead. Now, a lot of you might know that once dad gives the okay, that is not the end of the story. Because for a lot of our families, it's actually going to be mom. She's going to wear the real crown. And let me tell you something. Mom doesn't think that this is so funny. Mom takes her fence very seriously. The neighbors are going to see this. This is going to be affecting her property. And this is not a time for jokes. Mom insists that we are getting a white fence. And that is that. We are having a white fence. Mom says white, and so the family goes with a white fence. Mom's happy. Mom's happy. Everyone's happy. And that fence, you best believe, it gets converted to the color white. So we can think about the family like the government positions that are about to be elected. The kids, Dottie, son, and baby, are a bit like the House of Representatives. They worked together, they formed a party, they made a choice. The kids proposed the color for the fence, which was the color green. And just like the House of Representatives might propose a law, they're going to submit that to the next stage up, which is going to, of course, be dad. And like we said earlier, dad is our Senate. He's older, he's wiser, he's more experienced than the kids. Dad has been around and he knows pretty good what's best. Now, in this case, dad said yes. Dad approved of the kid's idea. But if he didn't like it, he would have also had the option to say no. And the kids really couldn't have done too much about it. Now, the kids are needed in order to vote on the color of the fence, right? Dad had to have this election before he could say yes or no. But at the end of the day, regardless of what the kids said, dad got that veto power. He gets to choose what's next. Now, he said yes, which is how we get to the next aspect of our story, and that is mom. And mom is a lot like the president. She has the real power. Mom looks at the kids' vote, sees what they want, and then looks to see if dad approves. Now, if dad tries to say yes to the kids, he's got to be careful because at the end of the day in this family, mom makes the real decisions. And mom says no to the green fence. Even though the kids, who in this case are our House of Representatives, and the dad, who is our Senate, said yes, mom still has the ability to say no. And just like mom, this power is called a veto. And just like mom, Donald Trump also has veto power. He can take a look at anything that the House of Representatives and the Senate decide, and he's allowed to say no. So here, mom said yes to the white fence and no to the green fence, and everybody accepted her decision. The president, just like mom, is very powerful. And for this family, that's okay because our family really loves mom. Our family trusts her, even when she doesn't agree with them. And just like the family needs to love and support mom in order for this system to work, America, the USA, needs to pick a good president. He's got full control of the country, just like mom controls the family. So, we're going to quickly check in about some of the things that we talked about to make sure that we're all on the same page about it all. And we're going to just go over what we learned since the last recap. So, since the last recap, we learned that people can vote together to make their votes stronger. This is called forming a party. And the United States has two major parties. The first one is the Republican Party, and they use the color red. The Republican Party supports Donald Trump. The other one is the Democratic Party. They've got a donkey symbol and they use the color blue. The Blue Democratic Party supports Joe Biden. The Democrats and the Republicans are trying to win three things that we just went over, which is the House of Representatives that makes laws, just like our kids proposing the fence color, the Senate, who looks over the laws and decides whether or not they're good enough to pass off to the president, and finally, the president, who can veto the laws or furthermore can sign them into law and can turn those bills, that green suggestion that the kids gave, the president, mom, can turn the green fence into a reality or say no to the green fence, just the same way that the representatives might bring forward a law that then the Senate likes, but Donald Trump says no. He's got that power. So we're going to once again kind of talk about Donald Trump and Joe Biden here and see how we can apply what we've learned to this real election here. So we're going to ask our next question, which is who are Donald Trump and Joe Biden, right? Because now we've learned a whole lot about the fundamentals of how this election's going to work. Like this is going to happen, that's going to happen, this guy does that. But who are these guys? So again, a quick reminder, this video does not express any opinions. I'm not going to talk about what these men believe. I'm not going to talk about their policies. I'm just giving you a few quick facts so that you can know like who literally these people are. So Donald Trump is the current president of the United States of America. He is a Republican, which means that when it comes to the presidency, the Republicans are currently the party that is in power. The Republicans hold the presidency. And he's already been the president for 4 years. He's got some experience doing this now. If Donald Trump wins this election, then he will continue to be the president. The Republicans winning just means that as far as the president's concerned, there is no change. Things are going to keep going on the same way that they're going now. Now, what's important to keep in mind is that any person can be president for 8 total years. Now, what that means is that Donald Trump can only win one more election. If Donald Trump wins this election, that's his last one. There's only 8 years allowed to be the president, which is 2 elections in a row. So let's look at the other guy, Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden is the former vice president of the United States of America. He has already been in a pretty powerful position before. He is the Democratic Party nominee, right? The blue party of the donkey. They decide that he is better than Trump and they want him to be the president. Now, what's cool about Joe Biden is that he worked with Barack Obama, which was the president before Donald Trump. So some people talk about something called approval ratings, how much people like a leader. Donald Trump and Obama have slightly different approval ratings. And some people who have some strong opinions about Obama might feel differently about Trump. So the fact that Obama and Joe Biden worked together is very important to a lot of people. So if Joe Biden wins, then Trump will no longer be the president. That's going to be that Trump will be out of office after just the 4 years. Now, if he wins, he's not going to be the president on November 4th. It doesn't start immediately. Joe Biden's first day as the president would be on January 20th, 2021. So that brings us to another question, which is how are the Americans going to vote? How does this work exactly? And the way that this works is that Americans who do something called registering, which means that they go to the government and tell the government that they intend to vote, that they want to be part of this election, they're going to go ahead and in the mail, they're going to get I'm going to simplify this and call this a ballot. They're actually going to get a piece of paper that they can then exchange for a ballot. But for the purposes of this discussion, they're going to get this ballot in the mail. And then from there, they're either going to bring it to the polls in person, which is going to be any place that allows you to go drop off your votes, is what we call the polls. And so on November 3rd, a lot of people are going to go use their legs on their cars and physically go outside and put their ballots into the box after they say who they want to be president on that paper. But a lot of people are going to do it a little bit differently, especially this year because of COVID-19. A lot of people are going to mail in their ballots. They're going to go ahead and tell the government that they want to vote by mail. They're going to get a special ballot that they put into a sealed envelope that they then are going to send away to get counted after Election Day. Now, on these ballots, and this isn't exactly what it's going to look like, but on these ballots, you're going to get a couple of questions. And usually it's going to be about 3 questions. And these questions are all going to look very similar. So the first one's going to be, who do you want to win the House of Representatives? Usually in your town or city or region, there's going to be a Democrat and there's going to be a Republican. Sometimes there's other people as well, but usually the Democrat and Republican are the 2 big choices. Then, if you are in one of the states that is up for re-election in the Senate, which isn't all of them, it might also ask you, who do you want to be your senator? And just like in the House of Representatives, you're going to have the choice between the Democrats and the Republicans. And you might be able to see where this is going. The next thing that comes on the ballot is the question of the president. Do you want the president to be the Democratic president, which is Joe Biden? Or do you want the Republican president, which is Donald Trump? Now, people who are voting by mail can vote at any time once the election starts, and many of them are probably voting right now at this very second. There's still people doing it, but the people who are voting in person must wait until Election Day. No votes are counted into Election Day. Until Election Day, none of those votes are going to be processed. So even though some people might have mailed their votes in more than a week back, that vote, that ballot is just going to sit on the table and wait for Election Day before anybody touches it. So although many of them have already voted, their votes just stay put. And this is for a couple reasons. One of the major reasons is to keep things fair, right? If everybody else is able to vote by mail first, they can totally like write off the votes of the people who want to go there in person. So that's the reason for that. None of the votes are going to be counted until November 3rd. So like I said, Election Day in the United States is November 3rd, 2020. So in the next few days, you're going to hear a lot about these elections. Because these elections are just a few days away, it's going to be all over the place, guys. People feel very strongly about the election, and people who feel strongly about things, they say strong things. They're going to say things that sound harsh or scary. And I just want to kind of give you guys some peace of mind. I want to share some knowledge with you that you should remember for your mental health. Because the main reason I put this presentation together is because a lot of the news that we're hearing doesn't really reflect what's going on or what is the most healthy way to look at this election. And let me just go right into these points. Not everything that you hear is true, guys. Now, I don't want to tell you not to trust the news because generally speaking, most news stations are going to mostly tell you the truth. But there's also something called bias. There's something called slant. And it's important to remember that anybody who's talking about the election, including me, I'm doing my best not to be this way, but anybody who's talking to you about the election, they've got thoughts in their head already, and they're going to talk in a way that's going to get you to believe what they want to believe. And sometimes that means lying. Sometimes people say things that sound extreme because they're upset, right? Let's say that you are one of those people who likes the Democrats and you want the blue party to win, but the red party is winning. You might be upset about that. You might not like that. And when you're upset, sometimes we say mean things, we say bad things, we say things that aren't true, or we say things that really kind of give us the wrong idea, that are too extreme, right? Rather than telling your mom that you are annoyed with her, you might say, I hate you, which of course is not true, right? But when you're feeling upset, sometimes you have the feeling that you want to say these strong things. So just be careful for that. Some people are going to be feeling that way. People are going to use big, frightening words, make big claims, but I want to remind you that nobody knows the future. Anybody who's telling you if Joe Biden wins, blah, 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 if Donald Trump wins, then blah, 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 this is going to happen, that's going to happen, the sky is going to fall, fire is going to rain out of the clouds, or whatever people might tell you, nobody knows the future, guys. Don't let anybody's spooky, gloomy predictions of where things are going to go freak you out. I want you to always keep in mind that the future is an unknown. And no matter how smart somebody sounds like they are, they can't tell you the future, guys. And I also just want to remind you, you can always walk away from an uncomfortable situation. And this isn't just politics here. This is like literally anything that you can think of. People are going to sometimes put you into uncomfortable situations. I just want to remind you that you always have the option to walk away. You don't have to listen to people who are telling you upsetting things. You don't have to listen to people who are scaring you or stressing you out. You always have the option to just walk away. And finally, if the news is upsetting you, then turn it off, guys. It's just a TV, it's just a radio, it's just your phone. You can look away, go watch a show, play a video game, draw something, color a little bit. It's good to stay informed, but it's always better to stay happy, healthy, and sane, guys. Don't just sit around listening to bad news all day. This is a trap that I've fallen into before, and I got to tell you guys, it feels terrible. If you just sit around listening to people talking about how terrible everything is all the time, you're going to feel terrible. You're going to believe things that aren't completely true about the elections, and it's just not going to be a good time. So if the news is stressing you out, guys, turn it off. You don't have to feel bad about turning off the news. You don't have any obligation to do it. Just always do what's going to make you comfortable and help your mental health and wellness. So that is it for our presentation. Thank you for listening, guys. I know that it's a lot to take in, but I know that there's a lot of people out there who wanted to know about the elections who are kind of like scared of all the news that's going on. They don't really know the facts and the reality. And I hope that if even one of you guys watch this video and feel a little bit more secure or understanding about all this craziness that's going on about the US elections, then this presentation will have been worth it for me. So, thanks again, guys. I'm Fabian with Homies Online, programming for adults with special needs. I'm so glad to have delivered my first online program to you guys. And good night. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Appreciate it. Mwah.